Good afternoon. Almost slipped up there. I usually say good evening. I suppose it could be evening somewhere. Good evening. So, figured I would just do a quick little afternoon impromptu stream. I have some fun stuff going on tonight over on Twitch. Going to be sharing a stream with a tarot reader. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I just wanted to pop over and just have a quick sort of impromptu stream on YouTube here. And go over your astro weather forecast. We just moved into a new period of time, right? Those who follow the wheel and use astrology as their vocabulary for understanding the machinations of the change that we're all going through. This period of time that we just left, this Eight of Wands, this Mercury in Sagittarius, has now moved into something very different, the Moon in Sagittarius. It's symbolized by the Nine of Wands. And in the story of the Wands, it's an interesting period of time. It's a very sort of introspective period. It's a moment where we're sort of forced to say, wait a minute, what just happened? And sometimes it could even sting. This is the tarot card Temperance, and Temperance is Sagittarius. There's some attributions you'll see on these cards here. This is the Salvador Dali tarot, okay? And the astrological correspondences that are on the cards were chosen by his lover and someone that he had a fondness of her opinion on this subject. He did the paintings and she sort of provided that, and so they're very different than the normal system. They're sort of chosen intuitively by her, and I think that's cool. There's some things I agree with, some I don't, and so what I'll just say is for the magicians out there and for other people that read tarot kabbalistically, the astrological correspondences are not what you're going to expect, okay? And so just keep that. That she assigns Temperance to Aquarius, and I can see why as far as visually and that whole idea. But Sagittarius is the symbol. And so oftentimes you'll see an angel pouring back and forth. One of the I think better images to really get to the heart of what is happening alchemically is the Crowley Thoth, with respect to the kind of union of these forces and the two becoming one in this idea. But more appropriately is this recognition that this happens in stages, right? There's these 10-degree periods that we move through that we call the decanates or the decans, or whatever your terminology is for that. And we break up the year in these degrees. And so essentially when you're looking at Sagittarius and this act of the dissolution, the act of sublimation, the act of the transferring, the act of the moving from a mutable fire into a cardinal earth situation. This machination goes through 3 phases, right? And that is the 8, 9, and 10 of Wand. And right now we find ourselves in the 9. So this is a stage of this process that very different than the Mercury vibe of the 8, which is very fast and activity going. It's sort of where the heat gets ignited in the process of this mutable fire. The 9 of Wand is a very different vibe. And oftentimes you'll find a imagery of a person alone and injured in some fashion, as if they had just gone through a fight. And in the Rider-Waite system, what we find is exactly that story, right? If you read the story of the wands as a linear narrative, there's this moment where the battle happens. You've been chosen, you step up to the plate in the 7. The 8 is all these wands getting thrown at you, and you find yourself in the 9. And in that moment, you're sort of standing there bandaged. The fight is over. You survived, but you're alone. Where'd everybody go? Their wands are there. They're standing up in the ground, but there's no one standing by those wands. They ran away. And you didn't notice until the dust settled because you were busy fighting, right? And now that you're through it, you survived. You survived. And that's the 9 stage, right? So there's this moment of sort of having to come to terms with the fact that we are, in some cases, the one that has to step up, and we're the ones that kind of take the bruise. Or another way of putting that is that we feel perhaps abandoned. And what this really is, just to be clear, is it's the impetus for the next stage. It's the moment of recognition that those wands are no longer useful for that purpose any longer, and they're used to build the bonfire that will be the source of the rebirth of the phoenix and the 10. And there's a sort of kind of sacrificial nature to the story of the wands when you get toward the end of this alchemically. It's this sort of moment of saying, okay, I need to take this solid thing, and this solid thing I need to recognize has components and pieces of it that are no longer useful. It kind of weighs it down. It's impure to the degree that it's starting to affect the nature of the whole thing. And so there's a process we can bring it through, and in that process we're able to, in a sense, elevate portions of it and allow other portions of it to stay. Sort of there's a separation that takes place, right? We've done this experiment in science class as kids, where we have the liquid in one container that kind of boils off, and then only the water condenses in the other container, and so you're left with pure water. That exact idea. That's literally the machinations of this process. And so this period of time is now the condensation. The mercury is the heat. That's what makes everything boil off and then kind of is now in a gaseous state. This is the state where that condensation starts to take place. It's a weeping. And that's indicated Kabbalistically as the moon. And so we use this symbol of the moon in Sagittarius to describe this rather occult, complex idea of really just a normal process that takes place psychologically, philosophically, but also very scientifically, of this state of sublimation, of dissolve, and of condensation. These machinations occur throughout the physical reality that we navigate, and at the same time can provide us with a vocabulary, a map, a way to interpret other systems, so that we might be able to uncover some insight there as well, right? And so this is, of course, the power of astrology to begin with. This is the power that magic gives us when we use the lens of a magician to interpret the language and know who's speaking and these types of things, right? And so finding ourselves in this 9 of Wands stage is really an opportunity to kind of not just let go of past things, but more appropriately recognize that there's a moment of a thing that maybe isn't useful any longer, and be okay with letting it go. Like almost sort of recognizing that there's just some things that when you hit a certain stage in your life, in your level of initiation, in your level of maturity, or however you word that to yourself, where the things that used to be important aren't anymore, and the things that didn't matter are important now. And when we find ourselves pulled in those directions, we have to kind of be okay with, or open to, at least exploring that. Like, where is that coming from? This compulsion to see the world differently. Like, how do I participate in that, rather than kind of be pulled along by the zeitgeist, right? Or by some fear that is no longer useful. That sort of needs to maybe be looked at, decided upon, and say, no, you know what, I don't want to be weighted down any longer by that fear. I think it's not useful any longer. Very fortunately, we now have a society, which means that, there probably won't be a bear in your bedroom. There probably won't be some thing that's going to kill you. Because, of course, what is fear or anxiety but the anticipation of harm, right? There's some part of us that anticipates injury or anticipates some force that will prevent us from achieving our will. And in either case, essentially the thing that's rising up inside of you, that emotion that you are acting upon and telling a story to give credence to, doesn't have a place any longer. It was important when we, needed to be afraid of something jumping out of the dark to eat us. It's been 100,000 years. It's, how long has Homo sapien been around? I don't know. I'm not going to look it up while we're talking here, but I forget. I think we even have extended it. It might be 200,000. I forget. It's a lot, right? Homo sapiens been learning and bumping their knees for a long time. I guess we've come pretty far since we could even do what I'm doing right now, which is to jump on and have a conversation. And so I guess we've done something right. Let's see what Homo sapien around at least 300,000, as evidenced by fossils found in Africa. Okay, so that's a long time, man. Wow, we're past 250 million. Cool, or 250,000. Although I have heard some stuff about that we may be a whole epoch older, and like there may be of evidence, but some of that sort of mathematical assumptions based on certain things too. So I think the 300,000 number is probably going to be closer to the right number, right? It's an interesting thing to consider that we are 1 million years old or 10 million, and I think it's naive and silly to completely disregard that. I think that should stay on the back burner until there's more evidence that, or at least enough evidence that it outweighs the evidence we have for the fact that kind of the oldest stuff we can really put our finger on is in that range, right? But I don't know. I think we're going to wind up learning a lot over the next several years as we get more capacity to look at a thing from more angles at the same time, right? And that's where you can sort of identify where, whoops, I made an odd mistake over here just based on not even knowing about this variable, which changes how I should even view the whole thing to begin with. We're all just, evolving and trying to make sense, right? I don't know how you guys are doing on that front, but man, that's hard. And so I have the moon out today in honor of the fact that we've moved from the Mercury in Sagittarius into the moon in Sagittarius. And so the moon is, it is beautiful, and it has all kinds of special things associated with it. One of them is sobbing, crying, but condensing from a gas to a liquid, right? And, one of the reasons that the moon cries is because we look up in beauty, but we forget that it's all alone up there. And we get to enjoy that beauty. We get to know it from this perspective. But from its perspective, wow, it could see this ball but it's not able to see each individual person, right? And so the moon we have to remind, and how do we do that? How do we remind the moon that it's not alone? That's part of the story of what we're going through right now, because the next stage of this wheel is Saturn. That 10 of Wand phase, which is some serious hardcore stuff, is going to go on here when we get into that conversation, because then we're moving into Capricorn, which is the devil, and all this, some pretty heavy symbolism. But the 9, this stage of weeping, the stage of condensing, the stage of the stuff turning back into liquid, but in a more pure state that is a unified version of itself. And what does that mean, unified, if we're separating and making more pure? Well, water is a molecule, right? Water is H and O. It's not just, right? We're not breaking it down to the atomic level. That happened in the heat here, and then it came back together as pure water that's coming down in this phase right here. And water is hydrogen and oxygen. And so there's a union that takes place, and so forth. So as we navigate that, remember that we also experience this on a daily basis. We experience it on a weekly basis, a monthly basis. These cycles appear and echo like wheels inside of wheels, each one rimmed with eyes looking in and seeing it from that perspective. And so tomorrow, at some point during the day, you're going to have a 9 of Wand moment. That's my cup. Rings like a bell. I love that. I don't know if you can hear that on camera, because sometimes the bell gets cut off because of noise canceling. But that's my cup. And I mean my cup. This is the wand that I use when working with that specific cup. It's also brass, and together they make a mortar and pestle. And so this is the cup and the wand. And I thought it would be nice to share my voice, the sword part of that, right? The athame. This is such a beautiful find. I can't even... I'm not sure where it came from. At first I thought, was it a letter opener? But it doesn't have that shape to the blade. It certainly is not a letter opener shape to the blade, right? It's not brass, it's bronze. Right, I mean, as an example here, you can see that color difference, that greenish. I don't know if that camera picks it up. There's a greenish, not to the patina, but the metal itself. That's, yeah, it's much more obvious in person, I guess. I don't know. It's hard to really see, but there's a greenish something going on in this metal. I don't know if it's oxidation or if it's just a something that occurred during the casting. I don't know. Metallurgy, not really, from the symbolic level, it's one thing, but I would love to know if anybody knows anything about this object. It's very heavy. This is a piece of metal right here. Right, I have average sized hands. I'm about 5'7", that's a knife, not a letter opener. It seems like it doesn't want to hold a sharpness. It seems very easily dulled, right? It doesn't seem like it'll stay sharp for long. But I wonder what, did this go inside of some sheath that is lost? I have to imagine it did. And man, I wonder what that sheath was. I want to know more, right? It was obtained in a kind of swap meet kind of tent sale. It was a very large. There was a half an acre of stuff and people. in Miami, northern Miami, southern Fort Lauderdale kind of area, a couple years ago. And so I don't, if anyone has any ideas, and I've used it for magical practice since, and it, I think it goes very nicely with the brass elemental pairing, right? The wand, cup, sword, and pentacle all being brass. Which actually, in this case, I'm using a Jupiter. This is the third pentacle of Jupiter. Although, it's not really a pentacle. There's no fiveness to it. In fact, it's very four. It's very Jupiter, and it's, all the fours are stuff. It's really very Jupiter. But that said, a brass pentacle. And so that set completed for ritual work is very potent. And the sound of everything ringing together is really something. It's hard to really, again, I'm not sure if it's going to show up on, but let's see if you can hear this. This is I'm going to gong I'm going to hit the blade with a piece of wood. Right, and so having a sword that sings, and the horse I kind of identify with. I'm a Sagittarius sun and a Capricorn rising. The Sagittarius, I identify that kind of horse energy, the opposite direction, right, than a Centaur. And so listening to that sound and recognizing what you're hearing and who's speaking is a very beautiful magic. Very, very special, powerful magic. And if you allow yourself to have that experience, it is visceral, it is actual, it is empirical, meaning that now I know what this feels like. I know what it feels like because it's in my hand. I don't need to identify and define the experience. Like, I can say it's cold, I can say it's hard, or it's makes a ringing sound, or it's whatever the case may be. But what it is what it is. And I know that because I'm experiencing it. I can see it with my eyes, I can touch it with my hands, I can do all these things. And if my mind gets out of the way, I'm experiencing it for what it is without having to put any words or names on it. It's not a wand, right? It's a wand when it's in my hand, for sure. So, that's knowing. And when you know what that sound is, who's speaking, who's on the other side of that, that's the first step in the process of the dissolution of self into the self. And this temperance moment is the opportunity for that to happen. The temperance, the Sagittarius moment is the moment for that to be given permission. The process won't happen if the heat isn't applied. The process won't happen if both sides of this don't decide to in a sense, risk themselves, their emotions, let's not forget that falling in love requires us to fall. Right, we have to give in to that. And so there's a choice to add ourselves to the cauldron, essentially. And when the lion did that, it used to be red, and now it's white. It's ash. The eagle used to be white, and now it's red. It is taken the heat from that lion and is now in the process of building pressure due to that heat. And when we find ourselves in the stage of the moon, something very special happens. That heat has a vector. It has a direction now, and it's not an accident that this appears in a sense as in like the arrow is now erect. It has an angle that is positive in nature, and it has a course. It's no longer like the chaotic energy of the Mercury, but more appropriately like a laser. Another way to put that would be if you were to look at a drop and how it appears in the process of falling from the angle of the drop, it would appear like a perfectly straight line racing toward its goal. There's no longer any kind of chaos to that energy, and in fact it's not just directed, it's facilitated by, it's necessitated by an emotional outburst, a knee-jerk that's not controllable necessarily. In other words, it's sort of when someone says boo and you go that moment of inhale you didn't really have control of, right? That was sort of a bodily response. That was nature taking over for you, right? That's not a bad perspective to take on a lot of things, because we can have the conversation about nature versus the desire. What does it mean to subdue passion, right? Or what does it mean to give in to passion? These are these ideas they echo. And so what's happening here is also happening up here. This union of these two people becoming one, where they're kind of in between. They're still two minds, but they are sharing the experience now. There's an equality to the execution of the will. They're unified, although they're not one being yet. They're mostly one being, and they are acting as one being. And so the work is all but complete. And all that simply needs to occur in this case, then, for it to be complete, is the giving into that situation, the realization that in the emptying is the release of the thing that you're keeping, not letting go of. The tears are not the loss. The tears are what you're keeping. And they're going to fertilize the new you. The thing that's left over after this process is so beautiful. Wait till you see it. We're going to be there soon in our story. And so this next little period here, don't be afraid. So, this has been your Astro Weather Forecast. You have to pardon my voice. I'm a little under the weather. But, so I'm feeling a bit nasally. And It's funny. I was singing a little jingle to my wife before, like that. We're playful. We're adorable. We make people sick. And anyway, so I was, it's sort of like a moment of like, hey, I want to poke and let you know that I was thinking about you moment. And so I just decided to say, I forget what I don't even remember what I sang to her. I think it was even maybe Christmas related. And I got the squeak almost like from an episode of the Brady Bunch. Jen, how's it going? Thanks for popping in. Right? It's almost like the squeak from the Brady Bunch where he's singing and his voice breaks. I'm turning 50 in 2 weeks and my voice cracked. But no, we're both kind of going through a thing, and so there's some coughing going on and a little fever, and it's, I think it peaked today. So you'll have to pardon my nasal. But so yeah, this period of time, very, very powerful stuff emotionally, and it's not all negative or positive. It doesn't necessarily mean any particular kind of polarity. It can be very positive. It's this idea of finally sort of cleaning out a certain part of your emotional space to make room for the needs of others during this time of the year, right? Of course, there's a lot of pain during this time of year, a lot of loneliness, a lot of family stuff that we kind of have to deal with some cases, and for others, it's a totally beautiful, joyous time. It's the in-between where we sort of really are all needed, because it allows us to remain open to each other when we see others in need, or allows ourselves to give ourselves permission to receive. That's a biggie, man. I have had a nickel for every time. And so it happens to us all. And again, tomorrow you will have a 9 of Wand moment. Yesterday you had a 9 of Wand moment. The world is having a 9 of Wand moment. The weeping, which is this moon, this allowing the process of this mutable fire to essentially transfer the moisture so that you can hit this cardinal earth in Capricorn. And this 9 period, this jumping from right into the mind and boom into the heart, and it's a heavy drop, but it doesn't have to be a sad one. It's just dense. It's heavy. Oh God, isn't that great? Sure. Yeah, we did Alone, man. We did Alone. It was great. Lots of extra leftovers, and we made the sides we wanted, and we ate the dessert we wanted. Truth. Rest and relaxation, man. I tell you what, just from imposition of the other, right? It is an imposition, having to communicate, even if you're being honest. Even if things are chill. It's don't forget, we all have to kind of decide on an identity and then use a vocabulary in order to even hear anything and decide what we think it means, or to communicate anything. Those two things need to be satisfied. Who am I? And what words do I want to use to instill my sensation into that other person so we share that idea? Like, how do I do that without an identity and a vocabulary? But when you're alone, the necessity to speak doesn't exist. It negates any of that to even begin with. There is no identity or vocabulary needed, at least to communicate. You're still doing that for yourself. You're still having the identity of how you take in your world, and so there's a vocabulary that describes your environment. Or if you're meditating on the tarot or some other method as a divinatory or prayer process, then you're taking them in within the scope of being open to that sensation of conversation, or however you approach that process. But that said, nonetheless, who we're being during that matters, right? And who we think's going to answer back matters. And I think one of the most important lessons that have been popping up as I've been speaking to people the past several days is when you answer those two questions, you may find the question you were going to ask doesn't even exist anymore, right? When you answer the question, who am I being, by asking, like, who am I really? Like, what's the real motivation behind why I'm asking this question? And who is it that I think is going to answer? And you allow yourself to have that experience of, okay, wait a minute, I'm really kind of asking this question because I need validation, or I fear this thing, or I'm, need somebody to kind of give me that little push because I know I'm very close to doing a thing, or for whatever reason you seek that. Nonetheless, when you get to the core of that and you step back and go, wait a minute, I'm choosing to be a person right now. My identity is actually decided by me at any given moment. That's relevant to the moment, and I kind of put that on autopilot, and I have to remember that's happening and participate in who I'm being in this moment. So who's asking the question becomes clear to you, and then who you think's answering, well, that's the goal of the magus. That's the secret in the inner sanctum. That's the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, is the recognition of the fact that who's speaking is just, a bell ringing, and not realizing that it's hearing itself, right? That it's the one making the sound. It's looking out into the darkness and seeing a light and thinking it's somebody else. And the reason you're in the dark is because you're the light, and so you, until you have that moment of mistake, think you're in the dark. Right, so when you answer these two questions, the question you approach the tarot with to begin with might even disappear, or at least the perspective is going to be more pure. You're saying, I'm going to take this moment as an opportunity to understand. I'm taking this moment, and so I'm approaching it that way, right? Like, if the goal is truly understanding, then that's the thing that you, Lord willing, if you're successful, will land on, right? And more appropriately, when you become understanding, the necessity to speak no longer exists, because you don't need to ask a question, or you're not seeking an answer, so no vocabulary. Latoya, how's it going? Of course you can, sure. You can ask any question that you'd like. Thank you for popping in. I had a very close friend named Latoya for a lot of years growing up. I was a little guy growing up in Brooklyn in the 80s. I was born in the 70s, but thanks for popping in. Today I'm reading with the Salvador Dali Tarot. It's quite a beautiful thing. It's going to be a very interesting visual experience for those out there that have a familiarity with tarot. If you haven't seen the deck or used it, it's really something. If you have, then you'll understand the idiosyncrasies and the weird sort of astrology correspondences that were chosen for the deck. If not, don't worry about it. We're going to be looking at the art anyway. And so let's not get hung up on that. And in the meantime, then, Latoya, I'll wait for your question, and we'll go from there. Hope you're having a good day today. If not, let's make it better, at least for the time you're here. Okay, spy on you. Cool. Let's take a look at that. And this is exactly what sort of I was speaking about is let's answer those two questions, like who's asking and who you think you're getting the answer from. And so we start with the first one, like who's asking, meaning who are you being right now? So there's a reason you're suspicious and you believe for some reason this might be a thing, right? You're not 100% sure, or you think so and you seek validation for that. But regardless, there's some inkle There's some piece of your heart that's telling you that you might be spied on, like that he maybe is what? Are you worried about him reading your DMs and stuff, or is he like have spyware on your phone, or like to what degree do you mean? Because I'll look at that at the same time as you interact in the chat here, but to what degree do you think he's spying on you, right? And secondly, I'm assuming that kind of he doesn't have right to this. You know, it's none of his business. And so, if it is actually happening, another question we could ask is what can we do to stop that and so on. Okay, social media. Okay, not social media. Sure. Let's take a look. I haven't actually read with this deck in a while. It's obnoxious to shuffle because it's long and thin, very aesthetic, not really practical to shuffle. I guess I should just go with the long way and suffer the difficulty. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, my little hands don't fit. I could do an octave plus 2 on a piano. I don't know. These are obnoxious. Oh my gosh. I promise you I know how to shuffle cards. I've been doing this 4 years. I've been 44 years. There we go. Okay. Like butter. What? You were worried? Yeah, no, it does not sound crazy. Listen, I have had people show up in my house and put stuff in my bed. Are you kidding? And I'm not kidding. I wish I was. It'll shake your safety, man. I hear you. You know, and it also depends upon their frame of mind and the level of capability that they have, right? You know, some people talk a game and whatever, and some people are super quiet and, you know, are plotting how to make it slow and where to put the ball. You know, like, so you can't ever discount anything. What I will say is that your odds are probably really, really good that you're not going to be eaten by a bear tomorrow, right? Like, and a lot of the things that we fear, we are there for a reason, but is oftentimes not what we, right? Unless there's a clear sense of danger in front of you, in which case that's a different story. You know, someone that you know has the capacity to harm or that has stated such is a different story. This may just be a jealousy thing or a power trip, and that's what we're going to get to, right? So let's first just do a yes or no, just to kind of get that out of the way, to satisfy that portion of ourselves. And she's right, Jen's right. You're going to put this on the bottom, and just cut it out of the middle, put it on the bottom, and I'm going to flip the deck over, and this is your yes or no. This is the Seven of Wand. He definitely is. Here's the deal on the Seven of Wand. It's the Seven of Wand is. The Seven of Wand is off balance. If you look at the tree, the 7 is off the center, right? I just want to be clear on why I said those words. The 7 of anything is off the middle of the tree, right? And so the 8s and 5s are a little kind of off balance in a way. The 7s and 4s are sort of have this idea of like a mutability to them, I guess is a good way to put that. But but more appropriately, there's this kind of vibe of Venus associated with the number 7. And now here you have this kind of like illuminating vibe that this, and so this dark, the way you'd mentioned like around the house, I kind of got this is a totally visual thing. I am speaking in metaphor right now. I just want to be clear. I'm speaking in metaphor. I kind of got a vibe of a dark room. It's a quiet house. there's a cat sleeping on the couch, you know, and someone's kind of creeping through the house, you know, and it's from the perspective of the person creeping, right? That sort of vibe I got is the sense of this hand and this, at the bottom of this card here, this hand and this candle. Over here is the same hand under a different circumstance that is showing a different side. So it's almost like you have a, again, this you know, not to bring balance back into the conversation, but nonetheless, level of inauthenticity when it comes to that idea. When the sun shines, you have this. When it's dark, you have this. Now, in between is another circumstance. There's a different individual here. Notice the arm here is clothed. This arm is not. And this is a different vibe altogether. These hands are they're seeking, and there's a level of safety. There's a level of okay, like you're, like, you know, in between that. And so ultimately, what I'm getting at is that there, if you were to say something to him, you may find that there's some kind of, it might be more innocent than you think, but I'm going to dig about that a little further. So, you know, just from a yes or no, I feel like, yeah, there might be some sort of poking around, but it might be more innocent than you think, right? All right, so that's the short answer. I know people out there are like, shit, that was a short answer. So let's kind of dig a little further into that. What I'm going to do is just cut these. I'm going to put this in the center, and then I'm going to look at these two as influences, which are essentially you and him from different perspectives, related to if someone were to ask him about you, what would enter his mind? That's the vibe of what we're trying to read. And same thing here with you, meaning that, you know, what lens are you using to look at him? Like, is the lens you're using suspicious? Is the lens you're using safe because you've experienced things before, and so there's, you know, it's not necessarily that, it's an actual trigger that you should pay attention to, right? All these things are important to look at. Let's catch up on the chat saying outside watching my house. Right. Well, you know, let's look at that, because I think this is going to be wind up being him, or if this is, that's a different vibe. So we're going to see which one of these is him. This is the Two of Swords, which is essentially having two ideas in your head at the same time. It's the easiest kind of way to look at that card. Over here we have a very different vibe. This is the King of Cups. Well, you know what? Perhaps that, because and we're going to get there, because this kind of ties into here before with there's these two sides. This is the King of Cups in his current state here is the emotional burden for people. However, not in this current circumstance. Instead, they are inside of a jar, being seen from the outside, right? It has this vibe of a fishbowl, which does lend to the fact that of being seen from the outside, right? So what I would say is, and again, this too, what you're seeing and what they say are two different things. And so what I'm saying is that it would be prudent for you to confront this person. Say something to them. You know, something along the lines of, like, don't use my exact words, obviously put it into your words, but something along the lines of, listen, I know you're poking around my shit, and you know, I don't know what you think you're getting from that, but if it gets to a point where I feel unsafe, I'm gonna have to, you know, like, report it. Well, sure, no, sure, and you know, like it just the tone of voice that you take, the place you're coming from when you sort of squash this is important. I'm not opening any doors. I'm not asking for anything to happen here. I need you to stay the fuck out of my shit. And if I wind up finding out that you're trying to undermine my life, even though we are separate individuals, I have no choice. I have just safety to report the fact that this is happening. You know, that alone can really do a lot. Letting somebody know that you know evil does not want to be revealed, right? The evil does not want light shined on it. And just letting somebody know that you know, and that you are not afraid to let other people know that you know, is not a bad idea. And to, you know, I'm not saying dox people on the internet. I'm not saying, you know, anything along those lines. But what I am saying is threaten that they'll be reported, and make them aware that, like, I know you're watching me. It's kind of creepy, and if you don't stop, I'm going to. I have no choice. I have to protect myself. Now, if there is some kind of degree of communication that needs to take place because of your son, that's a different story, and, you know, that complicates the thing, you know, obviously, or I'm not sure of the dynamics of that, but nonetheless, whenever we feel like somebody has intruded on our space, this is just reality in nature. You know, we kind of have to ask ourselves, am I in any danger? Is this circumstance something that I need to kind of not worry about, or do I have to? And if it is something that, you know, threatens your well-being, having the courage to speak to it, i.e., I know you're thinking this, doing this, whatever the case, and, you know, having the courage to, you know, again, if it does get to a level that's unsafe, report it. That's important. That's all. But if you want to, you know, the perspective of this idea here, there's you know, that fishbowl one really kind of tied the bow for me, that you're kind of, he's looking from the outside, and yeah. Anytime. If you want to pop in on the Discord at any point and keep in touch on what happens, feel free to do that. If you have any friends that you trust, to let them know what you're going to do. Like, hey, I'm just going to be texting this, you know, guy that's, and he might be doing some stupid, crazy stuff, and, you know, just I want to be safe and whatever, and so let people know what's going on. You know, you never know. Somebody who has the capacity to do certain things may have the capacity to do others, right? You know, and maybe not. You know them better than, you know, then I would be able to judge, but yeah, they pick up on a yes, yeah. And there's a sort of two-sided nature to how he appears in person and you know, alone, so. But most importantly, you know, just don't be afraid to sort of just, you know, confront him. Hey, don't, you know, send a text or something public. You know, like a little post somewhere, like, hey, listen, you know, whatever, don't do this. It's not okay to intrude on my life. You know, a past relationship doesn't grant permission to somebody's life, somebody's attention, somebody's proximity. That does not grant you that, right? That's great. That's a great idea, Jen. And, you know, there's a lot of good, inexpensive stuff. There's a lot of plug and play, ready to go stuff that you can grab that'll do exactly that, right? The Ring camera. Those are great. I mean, frankly, even having one up on your door that doesn't work will kind of stop a lot of people, because they know, you know, what that means, that they're not They're not in a little hiding bubble that they have to, be held accountable. That's what that evil eye is all about, right? We've all seen the symbol of the evil eye. The reason it protects you from evil is because it reveals it. It makes evil know that it's seen. The eye is a reminder to evil that I see you, right? And it protects you from that evil, right? And so the evil eye is sort of a lesson of that idea of even just a broken camera stuck. I would say use a real one, right? That way, if something does occur, you have good stuff. But yeah, evil does not want to be noticed. And it can be clever in the ways that it tries to hide, but ultimately, just being honest and calling things out can really be very powerful stuff. It'll just shut stuff down. It's pretty cool. So yeah. I kind of feel odd and like delirious from being sick, almost like feverish, and it's interesting. Max won't leave my house. I keep waiting for him to get through. I don't know. Oh wow. Yeah. That's complex, Jen. That's complex. Just wow. Although I've been in and have seen and known very similar kinds of dynamics, and it's interesting that we do live in sort of a interesting times, don't we? Right, where we have this level of care for each other to such a degree that these kinds of relationships can happen, or these kinds of sort of family units, and at the same time, they're really kind of unnatural in the other sense. Like one, it's just humans being humans and caring for each other, in some cases even to a radical degree, and on the other hand, it's sort of unnatural because it holds back your own development, your own ability to express love in your own home, and you can't deny that it changes the words you'll even speak. Not necessarily the ones in your heart or your mind, but the ones that you allow out, right? You can't deny that it changes that. And that level of safety or trust in your own home is an important component of our development, of our ability to know ourselves. And at the same time, it might be an opportunity to sort of train to do it anyway. Right? To have that strength to be honest regardless. I.e., not make the safety of another person's feelings the first priority. Right? That's not being selfish necessarily, that's being balanced. At least have their emotional safety be half of the balance, and I need to walk around my house naked for an hour, and be allowed also. And so that clearly won't take place in your current circumstance, and so it's like, that's complicated. It's a complicated thing when you love. Love is expensive. Okay, well, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how old is your son? And is he like he's not at the stage yet to understand? Like, you think he'll judge you? I mean, obviously by your statement, there's some degree of you feels like he's going to judge you. And so I have to assume that means that you feel your son is not mature enough to understand why you would make a decision like that. And so, you have to kind of ask yourself, is it okay for me to be the asshole now and my son recognize that I did the right thing later? Or to weather the situation and hope to hold it together enough that we don't injure in the meantime, right? Like 11. Yeah. Wow, that's an age, huh? I mean, we're talking nowadays they're freaking super geniuses, that, you know, are, I don't even care if they only speak English, they're polyglot anyway. Like they can, like we can't communicate on some degree when they decide not to. And on another level, they're completely aware in ways that we weren't when we were 11 years old. Like, you know, I mean, thankfully, I have 3 girls and they're all college, right? So I'm done with that stuff. But yeah. Okay, well, you know, being the product of a divorce and being through the process from the perspective of the child, and unfortunately, the adults in having children, we all made it. Right? We all made it. All 3 of my girls made it. I would say they know we're not a perfect family. They know how to love, though. My daughters know how to love. They will agree we don't belong together. We didn't belong together. Like, it was a good thing. We've been divorced a while. I've been divorced a while. But we came to that conclusion. And you know, frankly, there was judgment across the board, you know, for a minute. You know, first they pointed at her, then they pointed at me, and then they pointed at her, then they pointed at, and that opinion changed, of course, because we're humans, right? Wow, no. Nope, you can't. Yeah, that changes everything. You know, now we're getting into your job at this point, if it is to bring him comfort and do as best as you can to provide a lack of shame and safety and needs before he asks, to avoid that shame, and it's a totally different conversation, right? Your current boyfriend is like, I don't even know what to say. That's some strong shit, right? He's either super confident or is like really doing you a service, like, you know, either way, like, yeah, I'd love to shake his hand. Yeah, wow, God bless him. Tell him I hear you, brother. I do. Just roommates, people kind of popping in, and things have occurred where I was in a very similar situation of, you know, somebody that I was very, and I, you know, I kind of don't want to spoil how it went, because it did, none of it ended well with the relationship, whatnot. But I will say that my ex-wife and I are friends to the degree that we can speak, and we're friendly, and we don't wish ill will on each other. We're not malicious toward each other at all. I hold no anger toward her, or her toward me. And we're so past that. You know, that's maybe a thing that can occur later for you. Certainly not now. But man, that's tough. You know, the whole reality of, you know, how do you react to this situation where, you know, now you have to kind of care for a person that at the same time is going to, it might take a nice chunk out of your life. But however, did it? Of course not. It didn't take a chunk out of anything. It was absolutely part of life. And when you look at your life at the end as a picture from beginning to end, and this piece is in there, you're not going to go, oh yeah, that piece ruined it. No, of course not. That piece is part of the, you know, right? And so we're, expectation, man, what a just not necessary thing. You're not unloading. This is some truth shit. This is good stuff. Are you kidding? This is honesty. This is authenticity. This is, yeah. You know, I'm not sure to the degree that I want to, again, sort of dock certain people, but I have a family member that's going through a very difficult time with a person that they're with. And it's a very complicated situation that includes health issues and other things, and it's we should talk sometime, Jen. Like, are you on my Discord? Because if you are, we should do a private sometime. No money. We don't have to. You've been so generous already, and like and we can maybe discuss this on a little more personal level. My wife knows everything that has happened to me, and so I can speak openly in front of her. I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to have to hold anything back in the conversation or whatever the case. So, okay, really, yeah. And what are your thoughts about him? Oh, you are? Okay, good. What are your thoughts about him? And again, we can in a private, we can get into details like that, but do you think he's dying? I know that's that just like, oh, you think he's dying? No, but what are your thoughts on that? Like, is he holding on because he needs you in his life? Is he just not want to be alone? Is he, are we talking about mental illness? Are we talking about narcissistic sociopathy? You know him. Is he capable of that level of narcissism that he could feign dying? Right? Some people can, man. They'll steal your wallet and then help you look for it, So I wouldn't, But anyway, yeah, that's heavy, and I would definitely want to have a conversation with you about that. Certainly not in the chat, because there's some heavy stuff that I'd want to say too that I'm not gonna live. I just won't. But showing symptom. Oh shit. Oh well. Yep. Yeah, our stories just got a whole lot closer. Even. That's funny. Yeah, there's... Okay. Yeah, Very well could be. Yeah, diverticulitis is so misdiagnosed. Pardon my coughing, I'm just getting over a thing. And diverticulitis is also triggered by certain things and certain foods that aren't so intuitive. People figure, no more eggplant, no more sesame seeds. No, that's not true. And it's actually it's not just the stuff that gets stuck and swollen. There's chemical reactions that swell the stuff to begin with, and then that swollen also helps to exacerbate it using, catching a seed or some of these other things. So it's a very complex kind of reaction going on in there that somebody who's not paying attention to it can really injure their body, unbeknownst. Like, they'll think it's one thing and it's something very innocuous seeming that winds up being the culprit, right? And you need to pay attention to your diet, you pay attention to your reactions, and insurance lapse. Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. Insurance, I don't know what state you're in. Insurance lapse is a problem, but if you went to a clinic and complained of bleeding, they would probably at least do a sigmoid, right? And you'll know right away if the doctor, says, get out of here, or we need to start radiation or whatever. Like, let's be honest. I don't mean to be cynical. I'm just taking different angles here. Cancer is a big business, right? And so it's if he had any inkle, they would jump on that, right? And because they're printing $60,000 every time someone shows up to do their treatments and whatnot. Like, if it does turn out to be colon cancer, which obviously he genetically, that's interesting, right? That's unfortunate. And at the same time, that means nothing. So the real test is when a professional sticks a camera up his ass, takes a picture, and goes, yep, or nope. Now, there's blood tests that can look at certain enzymes. There's, the presence of those enzymes can point to certain things taking place in the body that indicate certain presences of blah, 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 blah. I get it. But all that requires is, someone signing a paper and saying, yeah, do the test, right? Yeah, I forgot you're in medicine, so yeah, like I'm talking like I fucking know things. You should be telling me. But you understand though, right? Okay, right. Yeah, you just drink the stuff and do the thing. And the pictures will tell the story here. Or you just gotta, again, go in from the bottom up and you'll have actual pictures as opposed to, But both or some combination, right? And whatever the case, but it's really a matter of data. The data. That's, Otherwise, it's a story. And that's okay. Stories aren't true or false. So, Connecticut over there. Oh, CT. You have to, okay, right. I was going to say, what do they call that when you drink the barium and then you go under the, it's an MRI, right? Or is that MRI? What is that called? Is that a CT or is that an MRI? Anyway, Connecticut. Okay. Connecticut. Yeah, I'm not sure Connecticut's law specifically, but I know that there some states require treatment. He's gonna wind up getting a bill. But if or when we wind up with healthcare in this country, because I know that there's a lot of ideas for plans that might wind up getting signed at some point. Otherwise, when that all occurs, he can then submit to, and have it paid that way. And in the meantime, some states do require that care, or at least, like you can't turn someone away just because they're not insured, depending upon how you approach that. Like, for instance, an ER, and you could certainly tell me better if those are the laws in Connecticut, if that's allowed. And so he can at least get a scan at the hospital of some kind, right? A scan at the hospital of some kind. And so you never know. You might, because that might just single it out right away. Like the doctors say, well, you know what? We did this XYZ and we're not seeing this, and so, or it may escalate. Yeah, cool. I hope that happens soon. Starlet, how's it going? Good morning. I was going to call you in a couple of hours, and so now that you popped on, I don't have to. I figured we were 3 behind, and so if I wait till after 2 p.m., I'm not going to wake you. But Starlet and I are going to be streaming together tonight on Twitch. And so we have to kind of pick topics and go over tech nonsense to figure out how we're going to kind of connect. Am I going to have a call in? Are we going to stream and then connect that way, like a stream together type of deal? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I need to sleep before anyway, so I was going to call you, take a nap, and then we'll, connect later on tonight. Anyway, good morning. Yeah, me neither. In fact, I should be asleep now. The reason I'm not is my throat is sore. I'm achy as hell. My wife is miserable. She's sick too. We're coughing all over the place. It's just not, and so I can't sleep because I'm kind of whatever, and thought, you know what? I know I'm doing a thing tonight on Twitch, but instead I'm going to just impromptu jump on, read some Dolly and chat, and a couple very cool things popped up and some cool conversation, so I'll take it. But yeah, I do need to sleep, man. I might wind up cutting this off in a couple minutes. Oh, it's okay. I'll tell you what, it almost feels like sometimes that weird quiet calm that you get when you're sick, right? That sort of like half comatose moment of bliss that comes from just being so exhausted because your body's fighting stuff and you're achy and all, and you just kind of get lost in the din of it all. You know, I try to lean into that. You know, I do my best to try to lean into that. And so far, so good. But yeah, I appreciate that, Jen. Yeah, it's yucky right now, but it's okay. It's that time of year, and stuff's gonna be floating around, right? We're gonna be sharing all kinds of things with each other this time of year. So. You're welcome. I'll do my part to spread the joy. All kidding aside, it's fine. I'll take it. I had, you know, nothing in the chest this time. It's just throat and fever right and achy right now, which is nice. Sharing it. Yes, it is. Oh boy. So I hope everyone's, you know, looking forward to a nice afternoon. We got some snow and the weather is sort of starting to get that time of year. And so we're moving toward that time. Any Sagittarius in the house? This is your astro weather forecast. So the Sagittarius is, we just moved into the second decan. All right, so we're in the 9 of wand instead of the 8. We've moved into that 9 energy. The moon vibe, awesome. That's right. That's right. We are the poets. So, Kitten just reminded me of an anti-drug thing from school. Sharing is caring. Wow. Which ones did we have growing up? That's funny. Just say no, I guess. Yeah, now I came up during the period of time where people were floating around conspiracy theories that there were razor blades in the apples during Halloween, right? That's when I came up, right? There, who else is in the generation where there was a thing floating around, a story that those tattoos that you would lick and put it on your hand, and then, you know, it was like a little temporary tattoo, where they were putting LSD in the tattoos. So funny. Yep. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions? Yeah, can I get a side of bacon with my brain on drugs? Because, man, those eggs look like they're perfect. They take them off now. They're perfect. Don't let that yolk get solid. I dip my toast in yolk, so. But all kidding aside. Dare gave me a list of stuff to try. Can I steal that? That's funny. That's good stuff. I'll give you credit, but I think I'm going to steal that. That's funny. Yep, that's another one, right? That was a real thing. What kind of world did we live in where we actually needed people to come on TV and go, hey, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are? And of course the answer is no. Like, no, I think they're in bed. I don't know. No one screamed. What? The only commercials I've seen that actually send the right message is the Arizona Meth Project. That one I'm not familiar with. I should look that one up. Yeah, there's some. There's one that I thought was interesting about texting and driving, but it didn't make it. Thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm not trying to pull an Amy Schumer. I ain't trying to steal jokes. I'm trying to be real. But that is funny. Because, you know, Gen X, man, we got to stick together, and we have a certain level of experience that maybe some people don't quite understand, and we live through some stuff. You know, there's actually a little bubble around that. It's not just Gen X. There's a certain bubble of generation there, right? A little bit before, a little bit after that went through some shit. Including Nancy Reagan. Just say no. So what is she saying? Like, hey son, are you smoking marijuana? No. Oh, that's not what they meant by just say no? Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. No, but really, that's how I grew up. You know, my kids had better stuff. My kids had like Michelle Obama, right, telling them to get up and run around for an hour, right? Like, it's the kids, the stuff I had was a little different. So, yeah. Older millennial, okay. That's fine. So okay. You still, okay, so you're kind of within, well, it depends. You're kind of within that bubble. You've at least certainly seen stuff, right? Elder millennial is on the cusp, right? Not quite Pisces, not quite Aries. But yeah. I don't know. I'm still not. Oh, I'm still not the oldest fart in some rooms, right? I'm still. There's still a 4 for 2 weeks. There's still a 4 in my age. I'm 49. Like, I haven't hit 50. It hasn't actually happened. There's still 2 more weeks. I don't want to hear anything about the Earth accelerating, and it probably already happened. It's just I don't want to, you know. The 90s, yeah. Man, that was a fun time. Yeah, I graduated in 93. That was cool. Some interesting music around that time. It was a fun time. Computers was kind of a big deal. I was having all kinds of fun. I was getting in all kind of trouble with computers in the 90s. People didn't even touch them yet, and I was doing all kinds of nonsense. Fun stuff. 2 weeks so you can get discounts. It's a that's a thank you, love. I appreciate that, and oh, see, this is what happens when you get too close to younger women. She's in her 40s too, but she's on the lower end of her 40s, and I'm on the higher end. Yeah, laugh it off, baby. Oh, remember Y2K? Oh my gosh. Okay, well, first of all, yeah, Y2K. First of all, the entire network of internet ecosystem, the power states, everything's gonna satellites is gonna rain down. All technology will fail due to a bug in the code. And the second one is, if that doesn't fucking kill you, the Mayan calendar is about to hit some weird middle, and the Earth is gonna be shifted into fourth dimensional reality. And if you're not ready, it's gonna tear your soul. It's like, holy crap. And then, if that doesn't get you, you see, there's an adrenaline drinking cabal of reptilian aliens. And they can only feed off the fear of children. It's like, oh my God, like, is this, like, listen, I'm a fan of Clive Barker. I love Clive. One of my favorite things I've ever read and continue to read over and over in my life is Magick. So I'm not, like, anti-horror or any of these things. I just, like, we don't need that to be in the zeitgeist as, like, a real thing. You know, like, did we really believe that stuff? Like, are there still people that believe that there's a cabal of people that drink the fear hormone out of babies, and because they're reptilian 13th dimensional whatnots? Oh, well, that's listen, you're gonna get me banned off of YouTube speaking such things in the chat. Private Christians, bum bum bum. That is, you're not kidding, Ruff. depending upon your brand of Christianity too, that can be a very difficult thing. I know that, and I can't wait to talk to you about that. Like, when you had mentioned about how your Thanksgiving went, it sounds like the beginning of a joke. A Protestant, a Mormon, and a Catholic walk into a bar, and the rabbi gets up and says, "Fucking him out." I don't even want the punchline. I'm out. No, but all kidding aside, yeah, that's your Thanksgiving had to have been quite an interesting thing, right? Really? And you know what? There's nothing wrong with any of these schools. It's the it's the people. No, but really, it's I don't care if you're in public. I don't care if you're in private. I don't care if you're homeschooled. Everyone is being fed a narrative from somewhere, right? And so you have to recognize that is always happening. And you always have to have your lens kind of tuned to the bullshit. Because it's, again, the work of destroying the ego is a misunderstanding of the fact that you need it to speak through, right? Like, you can't destroy the ego. That's not a thing. Right? And so, of course, we're being lied to, whether it's in private school, public school, home school. The only thing that's going to tell you the truth and teach you the right thing is like Tarzan level shit. Like, you wake up in the woods and the wolves teach you. Nature will teach you. Okay, yeah. And isn't it strange what the things are that like knock us onto paths or give us this like permission to take a different perspective? And so for your daughter though, Jen, that's in a Catholic situation or in a private situation or whatever the case may be, like the story, like Christ taught a different message to the disciples than he did to the people, right? It's the same thing. There's sort of levels of initiation. And so she has to recognize that what she's being taught, no matter what it is designed for the outside ring of that initiation, for the people that are allowed in to a degree but are on the outside. They don't get the full picture. And so realize that. And as long as you do, you can learn all kind of good stuff that's useful. But at the same time, have the recognition of the fact that your ability to see it from multiple angles is not limited. You have the ability to do that, on your own, separate from what you're being taught. Teach your kids at home how to weed through the crap. Yeah, right, exactly. Amen. Right, you get it. Yeah. It's really an amazing thing that'll happen when you just simply give them the magic of the truth, that when you shed light on things, they become more clear. If you pretend that certain things, don't matter and you don't even look at them at all, you are going to miss all of the dynamics that come along with that. All of the things that are assumptions you'll miss if you don't look. And more importantly also, what is the motivation behind why they're speaking to begin with? What am I being sold? Right? Who's the source? Who benefits? Like, what am I being sold? I mean, if they're teaching you algebra, cool. Right. Unfortunately, though, Starlet, that's a very idealist thinking, isn't it? Don't you wish it was that easy that people just sort of could agree with the obvious truth in that statement, right? Care what your kids are learning. Like, isn't it sad that you even have to say those words and like that's not sort of like a thing we do, but it's true. But we kind of don't. A lot of people sort of just assume that they're being taught right and don't pay attention. It might be really very surprising to find what what they know or don't know. They're a lot smarter than we think, and they're a lot dumber than we think. Right? They are a lot smarter than we think. They're a lot more aware. They're a lot more experienced. They're a lot deeper in their thinking. They also don't know shit compared to what we did. Right? And so what a weird dichotomy. What a weird place to be in between as a parent, trying to say, how do I raise this animal to survive and thrive and love and experience joy, and when the world is nowhere near what I know how to navigate. You know, it can be scary. You know, that's why we have to kind of be in the same position that we want them to be in. Think clearly. Look through the bullshit, including our own narrative, what they're speaking, and all that stuff. You know, I have a great idea that you know, is for some reason a sort of hot take, which is teach your kids tarot. Like, teach it to them. Don't just let them experience it and then wind up, you know, looking online and finding a occult guru that's going to tell them to tattoo Satan on their back. I mean, like, teach them tarot. A great way is like this method. Each color bead is a different element, and it's the 4 elements mixing together, and you can read them. You know, like if you come right here and you have, you know, earth and water, right? And so this is the Queen of Pentacle. So there's no imagery that's pointing at angels or demons or nonsense, but they understand the language of the elements. And so when they get older and more mature, they can, you know, play with the toys of the mage and dance the shenanigans and the nonsense. And when they talk about casting spells, they're not getting, you know, hooked up into a cult of personality that's going to take advantage of their body or their wallet. Teach it to them. You know what's my wife owns a gun, I don't. But nonetheless, when I was a young child, I learned how to use one. I had an uncle I had a crazy uncle, but the point is that he showed me how to use a gun. He put it in my hand. He made me fire it. And I'm not afraid of guns because of that, right? Like, I don't need one. I don't own one personally. I don't shoot or for target or anything, or for sport. I don't happen to hunt. But nonetheless, and I remember a time my daughter was talking about a beetle that she was afraid of on a bush, and you know what I did? I took the beetle and I took her hand and I put it in my hand and I put the beetle in her hand. And I said, oh, look how cute it is. It was in her hand. And I watched the fear wash away and disappear. Like, psh. I love that. That's great. See, and what a beautiful language that you can share. You know, what a beautiful language that you can share the tarot with your children, right? Like that's a big deal. To be able to understand the concept of a certain story and then use that to communicate with them, like, you'll never have that level of communication with your children when you're trying to, we speak different languages. We come from different planets. If men are from Mars, women are from Venus, your children are from fucking Pluto. Like, they're like Kuiper Belt shit. Like, they're so out of our reach. And yet, of course they aren't. That's a human, right? Same needs, same, just different environment. And so, how do you translate? Well, I mean, imagine if we had a thing in between with our children, right? And of course, that will allow them to navigate their own life by using that vocabulary to experience their world, to make sense of what's in front of them. I see no problem with that. No problem with being real about the symbols that they're looking at, so they don't get sucked into nonsense with winged beings that are going to drink their blood. It's not what those words mean. Right, and it'll demystify and then give them access to the actual magic that it provides without having to need that mystery. Oh wow, that's a very good point. Because Pluto is different, right? Pluto moves very slowly, but you can sort of tell someone's age by its position in the sky. Right? This is your astro weather forecast. Like, if you can see where the planet is. I'm blind, but I think I just pointed at Pluto, right? But please tell me I did, and I'm not embarrassing myself. But all kidding aside, I think I did. But that said, it's moving very slowly. However, it's kind of a sense of a clock of when somebody was born, and their Pluto position is different than ours, right? Because of that generational gap, there's enough time that it moved a bit. But yeah. That said, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm kind of losing it a bit from lack of sleep and being sick and stuff, and so Starlit Moon, I'm going to do exactly that, and then I will reach out to you one of the ways, and we will work out how we're going to connect, and then for that stream tonight on Twitch. Just need to put 6 hours in between there and now and some sleep. And otherwise, figure midnight East Coast, right? United States, 12 a.m. is when we'll go live, or around there. I'm not very let's do it at this second and whatever the case, and so super chill. For 20 minutes early, late, whatever, who cares? And we'll go do that. Okay. And Jen, we need to talk privately about that whole thing, and not now, not today, maybe tomorrow. But that said, I want to do that, and because I have a very similar experience that we're going through, and I would love to kind of bounce that off of you. I think we can both maybe get a little bit of insight into that situation, just because of some similarity there. So, thank you, I appreciate it. And that said, even though it's just simply an impromptu stream tonight, my sign off is real. It's not a sign off. It's a thing I feel every night, and I just want to remind everybody: when you answer the question of who's speaking, who's listening, then you'll understand who I'm talking to. When I insist on repeating every night that I love you always.